I have great pleasure in presenting this year's Dublin Literary Award to Valeria Luiselli. Congratulations. This is us.
First of all, I want to acknowledge my fellow writers, also finalists for this prize. Bernardina Evaristo, Colin McCann, Ocean Wong, my dear Colson Whitehead, and my compatriota Fernanda Melchor. And I also want to thank the Consul General of Ireland in New York, Kieran Madden, for hosting this unusual ceremony, the Dublin City Council and its head, Owen Keegan, Lord Mayor of Dublin, Hazel Chu, patron of this award, Dublin City Libraries, and the library Biblioteca Vila de Gràcia in Spain, who nominated Lost Children Archive. Muchas gracias. Then the judges, of course, who always do such hard work and read so many books, Jan Carson, Enda Wiley, Martin Vega, David Karashima, Rita Sacker, and Christopher Marash. I read an article the other day, felt really like a way too long advertisement, about a program that writes fiction. You feed it a few lines, tell it the genre, science fiction, horror, and it produces the rest. And it's not so bad at it. It writes in full grammatical sentences, comes up with metaphors and analogies, emulates a writer's particular style, and so on. The author of the article, who seemed to me a little too thrilled about this diabolical toy from the depths of Silicon Valley, says at some point in the article that this tool was going to be the salvation for writers who dislike writing, which, according to him, is nearly all writers. I want to say to this writer, you're wrong. And to this robot, I don't really want to say anything because robots are robots. Fiction is one of the most pleasurable human activities. It's one of the most difficult, yes, but when it's driven by a deep desire, it is also one of the most pleasurable. Fiction is also something quite like a bodily intuition or an embodied knowledge, something we feel when our minds are able to pierce through the mesh of the present and imagine someplace, something other. At times, when we try to peer into that other place, what we see is too painful, shocking, or simply abysmal. But we have to look at it anyway and make something of it, make something with it. The word fiction, in fact, comes from fingere, which means to shape or form, and originally to mold something out of clay. Fingere implies the action of making rather than inventing. It's not inventing something that's not true. It's giving shape to what was already there. Fiction requires a combination of insight, hindsight, and foresight. In other words, it requires experience. Fiction is a way of giving shape to experience. Lost Children Archive is a novel about the depths of childhood solitude, about children's boundless imagination, the fragile intensity of familial ties, about tensions between history and fiction, and the complex intersections of political circumstances and personal lives. But more than anything, Lost Children Archive is a novel about the process of making stories, of threading voices and ideas together in an attempt to better understand the world around us. In other words, it is a novel about writing fiction. It begins with two parents telling stories, their children physically but also metaphorically riding in the backseat of the family car, but then shifts to the children's narrative, to them becoming the voices that tell us the story of the fucked up, but sometimes blindingly stunning world that we're always fictioning, as in always shaping and reshaping. In this past year of isolation and doubt and so much fear, My daughter, my niece, and I have been reading out loud to each other for company, for a better sense of togetherness maybe, beyond cooking and eating meals and cleaning the house together. We read to each other the way one seeks company around a fireplace, to be alone together. Often, we play a game. We sit in front of the bookshelves, and one of us chooses a book with our eyes closed, and then we read out loud from it, sometimes just a few lines, sometimes entire chapters. We've been reading Audre Lorde, Marguerite Duras, James Joyce, and even a vampire series, the title of which I will never confess. In any case, I can say, without a hint of doubt, that without books, we would not have made it through these months. If our spirits have found renewal, if we have found strength to carry on, if we have maintained a sense of enthusiasm for life, it's thanks to the worlds that books have given us. Each time, we found solace in the companions that live in our bookshelves. Escovedo wrote, retirado en la paz de estos desiertos, con pocos pero doctos libros juntos, vivo en conversación con los difuntos y escucho con mis ojos a los muertos. Withdrawn into the peace of these deserts, along with some books, few but wise, I live in conversation with the deceased and listen to the dead with my eyes. Recently, for a project I'm working on, I interviewed some women in my family about what they feared most. What are you afraid of? I asked. My mother said, perder claridad, to lose clarity. My daughter said, I'm afraid of being left alone. My younger niece said, expectations. My older niece said, I'm afraid of my relationship failing, losing love. And what are you afraid of, Mama? My daughter then asked me. What am I afraid of? I'm afraid, like any adult, of many things. Of loss, of not being able to provide for those who depend on me. Afraid of political violence, of climate change, afraid of Silicon Valley. But I'm particularly afraid of our spirits becoming stagnant, of not having a narrative to believe in, of not having a common space in which to listen to each other and understand each other more deeply. I am afraid, in other words, of a world without fiction, a world in which we do not share a collective space of imagination. And so I am committed to that, to devoting my life to the improbable art of making fiction. Thank you.